On December 15th, 1967, tragedy struck the Silver Bridge connecting Point Pleasant, West Virginia and Gallipolis, Ohio. It was a late afternoon rush hour. Dozens of cars were packed bumper to bumper up and down the length of the bridge. Then, without warning, the Silver Bridge collapsed into the Ohio River. 31 vehicles plunged into the frigid water below, taking 64 people down with them. Of those 64, 46 lost their lives that day, and 2 of the bodies were never found. But this strange and sudden tragedy became all the more bizarre when witnesses soon reported having seen a mysterious creature in the region surrounding Point Pleasant leading up to the disaster. The creature was described as standing roughly 7 feet tall with large red glowing eyes. Locals came to call this creature the Mothman, and the day of the Silver Bridge collapse was not the first time he had been spotted. In fact, the first sighting of the Mothman came just over 1 year earlier, when gravediggers working in a cemetery in Clendenin, West Virginia spotted what they described as a, quote, brown human being soaring over their heads, moving rapidly from tree to tree. 3 days later, 2 couples in Point Pleasant noticed a white-winged creature about 6 or 7 feet tall standing in front of the car they were all sitting in. 2 of the witnesses later claimed that the beast had bright red eyes about 6 inches apart, a 10-foot wingspan, and that it apparently wanted to avoid their car's bright headlights. The witnesses also claimed that the Mothman could fly at staggering speeds, possibly as fast as 100 miles per hour, as it chased their car along the road to the outskirts of town before flying off into a nearby field. Journalists, meanwhile, were skeptical. They referred to the alleged Mothman as either a bird or simply a large creature, though a few did report one witness's claims that it was, quote, like a man with wings. It didn't take long, however, for more stories of the Mothman to begin circulating. Within a week of the first claims, the Gettysburg Times reported 8 additional sightings, including 2 volunteer firefighters who claimed to have seen, quote, a very large bird with large red eyes. A man named Newell Partridge, who lived in the nearby town of Salem, West Virginia, said he too had an encounter with the Mothman. He claimed that strange patterns had appeared on his television screen one night when he heard an odd noise outside his house. Aiming a flashlight in the direction of the sound, he saw 2 red eyes like bike reflectors staring back at him, and that shortly after, his dog disappeared. To this day, stories of the Mothman hold a chilling place in the history of Point Pleasant. Many continue to speculate that the Mothman may have been a harbinger, warning the residents of Point Pleasant about the impending doom of the Silver Bridge collapse. You're listening to History Uncovered, brought to you by the digital publisher All That's Interesting, where we explore the uncharted corners of the natural world and the world past. I'm All That's Interesting staff writer Austin Harvey.
And I'm All That's Interesting staff writer Kalina Fraga.
And today we are diving into the disturbing stories surrounding the Mothman of Point Pleasant, West Virginia. I think everyone's at least a little bit familiar with the Mothman, at least conceptually, right?
I knew I'd seen it mentioned on the site, but I don't know very much about it at all, to be honest.
Okay. To kind of just give you like a brief description of what it's a big moth man, right? Like it's pretty self-explanatory. It's a big 7-foot tall-ish creature with glowing red eyes that was purportedly seen around the Point Pleasant, West Virginia area in the late 1960s. There were some very early sightings. The initial one was 2 gravediggers working at a cemetery in Clendenin, West Virginia.
Oh, creepy.
Yeah, they said they saw it darting above them in the trees, this like massive kind of hairy looking creature. But the sighting that everybody kind of refers to when we talk about the first sighting happened on November 15th, 1966. 2 couples, Roger and Linda Scarberry and Steve and Mary Mallett, were driving together along State Route 62 near the abandoned National Guard Armory and power plant when they saw what they said was a 6 to 7 foot tall creature standing in the road in front of them. They said the creature's eyes were glowing red and that it just rose straight up in the air like a helicopter.
Creepy.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a natural movement for any kind of bird or anything to just go I guess maybe like a hummingbird. They can float in place. They're the only bird.
Yeah, it makes me think of like stuff from like that show Supernatural. It's how like the demons would move.
Roger, the driver, was naturally startled and panicked and sped off towards town. And they said that the creature then took to the skies and followed them along the road, reaching speeds of possibly 100 miles per hour.
Wow.
The other interesting thing is that they described the creature on the ground as a, quote, clumsy runner, saying that it was a lot faster and more agile in the air, but once they got close to town, it landed in a nearby field and scurried off in a very clumsy manner.
Huh. Less frightening then.
Yeah, a little bit less scary.
Clumsy thing, yeah.
Yeah. The next day, the Point Pleasant Registry, the local newspaper, ran the headline, "Couple sees man-sized bird, creature, something."
I love that headline, something.
I wish I could write headlines like that.
Right. We should start. We should redo how we do headlines on the site.
Yeah.
More exclamation points.
Archaeologists find something. Naturally, the word got around pretty quickly. People in the town were very frightened. And because this is in America, they reacted how Americans do by grabbing their rifles and walking around looking for the beast. All the local dads in the neighborhood telling their kids to stay home. Kids and wives like, get inside, shut the doors. Get a little dad squad
Get my
going.
rifle.
Yeah.
Wow.
When in doubt, call the dad squad.
It wouldn't work against a cryptid. Like, I mean, obviously, guns will do nothing.
Well, maybe. I don't know.
I think
all cryptids are different, right?
That's true. That's true.
So, I don't know. Silver bullet or what kills moths? Bug spray.
Yeah. I think I was thinking of the jackalope, which is like that bunny. I think that's the bunny with the antlers. I'm pretty sure they're impervious to bullets.
Yeah. They're also very fake.
What?
Yeah. Do you know the story of the jackalope?
I do know the story.
Okay.
Yeah. We've written about it.
Yeah. It's just taxidermy. That's all it is.
I know. They're still cool.
They are cool. I like this. I like the story behind them, but yeah, they are just taxidermy.
The story's really funny. It's like that they like love whiskey and they like to sing and all this crazy stuff.
Yeah. And it was just like a couple of like young, like, I don't know, like early teenage boys who stitched this thing together and brought it into a local tavern and were like, here, do you want to hang this up on your wall?
I think the story is like these guys were hunting and they'd hunted rabbits and deer. And one of them like threw the rabbit on the ground and it landed near like antlers. And they're like, that's funny. And then they...
We can make some money on that.
Make some money off of it, yeah.
Yeah, well, they weren't wrong. Mm-hmm. But anyway, as it goes with stories like this, once the proverbial dam is broken, floods of Mothman sightings started popping up all around the Point Pleasant area. And a lot of this was chronicled in the 1975 book, The Mothman Prophecies, written by paranormal journalist John Keel, which we can get into John Keel's credibility here in a minute.
Okay.
But in his book, John Keel chronicled an encounter from this man named Neville Partridge, who said that he also had an experience with the Mothman. Partridge said that his dog, a German Shepherd named Bandit, had taken off into the woods chasing something that had two glowing red eyes. When Partridge went to look for Bandit, the trail stopped abruptly, and he found a small trail of paw prints going in circles and then just seemingly disappearing.
Oh, so Bandit disappeared.
Yeah, well, presumably it got abducted by the Mothman.
No.
It was a nice little doggy dinner.
Oh.
Later that night, Partridge said that he saw two glowing red eyes outside of his home after hearing a strange noise, but could not find the source of them. He also said that his television set began making strange symbols.
Oh.
Right before this incident happened.
Huh.
I'll get into the John Keel stuff a little bit now, because John Keel was in Point Pleasant at the time all this was going on. He stayed there for several years and was like chronicling the alleged encounters with the Mothman. And Entertainment Weekly interviewed Keel and the director of the 2002 adaptation of his book, which was also called Mothman Prophecies, starring Richard Gere.
Oh, wow. The guns.
Yeah. Director Mark Pellington told Entertainment Weekly at the time that the movie is really very fictionalized. He said maybe it would have been more accurate to say inspired by true events rather than based on true events. Anyway, you're talking about events that were originally questioned as to whether they were truthful or not. So what we have here is like a contested story among the people already, right? Whether or not Mothman is real. And then John Keel's story, which is supposed to be the true experience of everybody in town, might have also taken some creative liberties. The book came out in 1975, so this is 8 years after everybody had seen Mothman. He included some hard to verify claims in the book, including his own experience or his own alleged experience, saying that he was warned in advance of the impending doom of the Silver Bridge collapse via mysterious phone calls from different kinds of voices that coincided with the Mothman sightings, hence the title of the book, The Mothman Prophecies.
Wow. One thing that's really interesting is that the Mothman apparently can use technology. That seems unusual.
Yeah, I don't know if Keel was claiming the Mothman was calling him or just that it happened to coincide. And we can get into it in a little bit too. But a lot of people kind of consider sightings of the Mothman to be like bad omens, or like that Mothman himself is a harbinger of doom. At the time, this is a 2002 article. Keel was 72 years old at the time. And he told Entertainment Weekly, "I was called by all kinds of voices. They would give me information. They would give me prophecies that came true. It was a very scary time." He says at the same time that he had vague advance warnings about the assassinations of Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert Kennedy, and that the voices also warned him of impending trouble for Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin.
Wow. Boy.
Yeah. I will say,
voices knew a lot of stuff.
It's very easy to make that claim when these events have already happened and you're being interviewed about them, or when the book you wrote on the Mothman came out nearly a decade after the sightings and the Silver Bridge collapse. So,
wow. Well, 60s are a wild time.
That's true. This is this is Woodstock era, so
yeah,
maybe he was hearing voices.
Maybe he was.
It was in December of 1967, the same year, or about a year after the initial Mothman sighting, that the infamous incident, to alliterate, happened. It was the Silver Bridge collapse. It happened on December 15th, 1967. The Silver Bridge collected Point Pleasant, West Virginia to Gallipolis, Ohio. Yeah, it was rush hour traffic. It was basically at a near standstill with cars just kind of bumper to bumper all along the bridge when it just suddenly collapsed out of nowhere.
Oh, gosh.
31 vehicles in total fell into the Ohio River when the bridge collapsed. That comprised a total of 64 people, 46 of whom died, and 9 of whom were injured.
Wow. That's amazing that you would survive that.
Yeah. I mean, of the 64 people who fell in, 9 of them made it out without a scratch. And 2 of them were just never found.
We have an article about the bridge collapse and everything, and I saw pictures when I was prepping a little before the recording, and like the cars were crushed, so it's amazing that anyone could escape with their life.
I mean, you think about it, you have, how much does the average car weigh? A couple thousand pounds, right? That was an interesting
part of the article. They said cars, when the bridge was built, weighed 1,500 pounds.
Well, there you go.
But by the time they were going across the bridge, they were 3,000. By the time it collapsed, they were 3,000 pounds. So
yeah, so pretty much doubling the weight limit that they had ever expected.
Right.
And then you think about all these 3,000-pound cars crumbling into each other, and sort of starts to make sense. Because it's not like the term collapsing for the bridge almost makes you think that it just kind of went like straight down, but it's like really it broke and everything funneled into one spot.
Yeah. Ugh. Awful.
Yeah, it's a scary situation. And then, of course, this coincides with the Mothman sightings. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about it. So with this hysteria around the Mothman going on for a year preceding this event, people, whether truthfully or not, began to tell stories that they had seen the Mothman perched on top of the Silver Bridge in the moments leading up to the collapse. That led to further speculation that the Mothman had been a harbinger of doom, or that it had been there to basically warn people in Point Pleasant that some sort of disaster was about to strike. All of this backed up by the fact that shortly after the bridge collapsed, sightings of the Mothman started to die down pretty much right away. So, I mean, if you go to Point Pleasant today, they have like a whole, it's very, very Mothman-centric.
I bet.
They have a statue to the Mothman and a whole museum. And
a museum? A whole museum? Wow.
The Mothman Museum.
I'd like to go there. That sounds interesting. Because I can't quite imagine how that could fill an entire museum, but I bet there's...
Well, they apparently have other things there as well. As I learned recently, a copy of Project Blue Book is there, which...
Oh, that's right.
Well, yeah. It was a government project that looked into UFOs and paranormal phenomena, which I believe we have an article about on the website.
Yeah. People don't think Mothman was an alien, do they?
Not that I'm aware of. I think generally we classify it as
a
cryptid, though according to some descriptions, some people have also referred to it as a supernatural manifestation. Alien is a possible theory there. Some people have said alien.
I just thought of that because of the Blue Book thing.
Yeah, I mean, Project Blue Book largely looked into UFO stuff. West Virginia also kind of a hotbed for paranormal and UFO investigations in general.
Curious.
So it makes sense that they would look into it. It might just be one of those things, like you said, how do you have an entire museum dedicated to the Mothman? I was like, you don't. You throw other similar things in there as well just to keep people interested.
Right. Huh. I still would like to see it. That sounds cool.
Yeah, definitely. I should also mention that, so even though the Mothman was not seen again in Point Pleasant, it's not the last time the Mothman was ever seen. Shortly after, according to a Georgia newspaper that I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name of.
This is Georgia the country, not Georgia.
Georgia, yes. Georgia the country, not Georgia the state. But according to this Georgia newspaper, Russian ufologists claimed that there had been a series of Mothman sightings in the late 1990s in the months leading up to the 1999 Russian apartment bombings, which was a series of explosions that hit 4 apartment blocks in Buyansk, Moscow, and Volgodonsk.
These were bombings then in 3 different cities?
In 3 different cities in Russia. But there were like 4 apartment blocks in total across these 3 cities. So yeah, I couldn't find any other evidence to support that claim other than this Georgian newspaper, but that reportedly occurred. And then in 2016, so we're getting very recent with this now, the local news station WCHS published a report with the title, quote, "Man photographs creature that resembles legendary Mothman of Point Pleasant." This man said he had been driving along State Route 2 in Point Pleasant when he snapped several photos of a creature jumping from tree to tree. A lot of locals believed it looked like the Mothman, and panic spread that maybe some other terrible tragedy was about to happen.
Well, when in 2016 was it seen?
That's a good question. That's funny. Other people have come forward, like from the scientific community, to say that maybe it was just an owl that he photographed, which also makes sense. Owls can get pretty big, I believe, as we've talked about before.
Oh, yeah. I was going to bring that up later, maybe.
Yeah.
Or I can bring it up now, but it's like, we talked about that with Kelly Hopkinsville, which is an alien encounter, alleged, I should say, where one of the theories was that it was a barred owl dive bombing them and their eyes can sometimes glow and da-da-da-da.
Right. I have a theory, well, not about this, but about what the Jersey Devil might be, but it also... You ever seen a horse-headed bat? You ever seen what these look like? We have an article on the site about horse-headed bats as well. But when you look at the descriptions that people have of the Jersey Devil, they describe it as a horse-headed thing with bat wings and goat hooves. And if you look at a horse-headed bat, there's a reason it's called, it's a hammer-headed bat, not a horse-headed bat.
Oh, I was like, that's such an evocative name for a bat, horse-headed.
Yes, hammer-headed bat. But let's be real, it looks like it has a horse head. And they get pretty big, so just saying.
Scary.
My personal theory, Yeah, they have a 3-foot wingspan. So, I mean, that's like fairly large. They are weird-looking creatures. And if you saw one in the early 1900s and you lived near the Pine Barrens, you might think it was kind of devilish looking. Just saying.
Yeah. I would still think that if I saw it today.
Yeah, they're very weird looking. So not out of the possibility that someone might have just seen an owl, a very big owl, snapped a couple of blurry photographs, and said, it's the Mothman. That also was not the last time anyone reportedly saw the Mothman, though, or a Mothman if there's more than one. In 2019, more sightings of the Mothman surfaced, but this time it was in Chicago. There was an NPR inquiry titled The Case of the Chicago Mothman at the time, and I tried to find it, and it's no longer available online.
Oh.
So that was unfortunate.
Yeah, that's too bad.
The Chicago Tribune also reported on these alleged Chicago Mothman sightings, though. Witnesses said very similar things. They said it had glowing red eyes, that they felt a sense of dread when they looked at it. Between April and July of 2019, there were more than 20 sightings of the Chicago Mothman.
Wow, that's a lot of sightings.
In just a few months.
Yeah.
April to July, 3 months, 4 if you count each of them, like April, May, June, July, 4 months, I guess, total. It's talking on average 5 sightings a month. In 2019, though, I mean, that's like recent.
Do you know how these things were reported? People just saying it like online? I wonder.
I don't know.
How this was collected.
The Chicago Tribune interviewed one of the witnesses. So, I mean, it's not like it was just a rumor board or like a Reddit thread. Like, people were apparently talking about this pretty frequently.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah, the witness they interviewed said, I felt like this thing could see right through me, read me. It knew what I was thinking, like it could stare right into my very soul. It was the most terrified I have ever been in my life.
Wow. All right.
I mean, that's scary. I can't think of any major big tragedies that happened in Chicago in 2019. Chicago experienced its most violent weekend of 2019 with 52 shootings and 10 deaths in June.
In June?
Yeah, USA Today reported June 3rd, most violent weekend in Chicago.
That's bad. That's not good.
You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of shooting and crime and whatnot constantly going on, not just in Chicago, in all parts of the world. Compared to like the Silver Bridge collapse, I don't think it's quite on the same
It's not like
level.
A huge focused sort of
right. Not like
calamity.
one calamitous event or anything. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's the same sort of situation or if it was the same creature or if it was just an owl or whatever. But hey, 4 years ago, Mothman's apparently still alive and well.
So that was the last known sighting.
That was the last
documented sighting. All right.
Yeah.
2019. So we're due for one.
Yeah.
2016, 2019.
The gaps are strange. We have the late 60s to the late 90s, and then another like 2 decades to 2016, and then just 3 years later.
Yeah.
Though, again, the 2016 one's sort of iffy because it was a guy in Point Pleasant who just took a photo that might have been an owl. So if we rule that one out, we go late 60s, late 90s, 2019.
Are his photos online? That looks like that's weird.
It doesn't
being an owl,
quite look like an owl because it does have
its legs are so long.
It has distinct legs.
But owls, like if you see an owl that's like a wet owl, it has really weird legs too.
That's true.
That's weird though. That does look like a person who's flying. It's a pretty good picture.
Yeah, I guess owls do have pretty distinct rear legs.
Yeah.
The problem is it's so blurry you can't tell if it has talons or just like feet, like man feet.
Yeah, and it's like at night.
Yeah. I mean, it is a weird looking photograph, to be fair.
I've seen owls fly before and they don't look like that.
It also it looks like it's like falling.
Yeah.
Its wings are stretched out directly in front of it.
It's like he's like leaping more than flying.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is weird. It is a weird photo.
It's a weird photo.
But if we don't count that one, just for the sake of my point, it seems like it was like 2 or 3 decades between the first and the reported Russian one. Similar, slightly shorter amount of time between the Russian one and these 2019 Chicago sightings. So
when was the gravedigger? When did they see that
was in 66.
Oh, so it's the 60s still.
Yeah. That was technically the first sighting. It would be November 12th, 1966. Yeah, I don't know. Either way, obviously this story has like captivated people for the better part of almost 60 years at this point. And like I mentioned earlier, especially in Point Pleasant, the Mothman is massive. It's to Point Pleasant, West Virginia, what the aliens are to Roswell, New Mexico. It's the reason you would go to visit there. Because why would you ever go to Roswell otherwise, right?
Right.
No offense to the people of Roswell. It's just there's not a touristy reason to go there other than to see all the UFO stuff. And very similar thing with Point Pleasant. They have every year on the third weekend in September a Mothman festival. They have a permanent statue of the Mothman up. They have the Mothman Museum, which opened in 2006 thanks to Point Pleasant native Jeff Wamsley. It is a showcase, basically, of all the archival material he assembled, including police reports and witness accounts, and apparently the text of Project Blue Book.
Wow. I just love that people who have like passions are like, I'm going to open a museum and like put all this stuff. That's great. I'm for that.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's a great business for him.
Yeah.
And the dude's like obsessed with Mothman. He wrote 2 books about it. The first, Mothman, Facts Behind the Legend, and Mothman, Behind the Red Eyes.
Wow, that's amazing because I feel like, I mean, I guess there was probably more information out there, but it feels like there's hardly enough for like one book.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But I guess if you have all of the police reports, all of the different witness accounts, and you're going into detail on them. He also lives in Point Pleasant, so it's likely that he's able to get interviews with people who are still alive from back then.
Sure, yeah. You could tie in like other local things to your book probably as well.
Yeah. I do question, I want to read them. I do question what the 2 books would contain that's different between them. The titles don't really tell you much. Facts Behind the Legend.
Behind the Red Eyes.
And then just Mothman Behind the Red Eyes. The second one sounds like it would be like a fictional book.
Kind of, or like a really like a tell-all like autobiography or something.
Featuring interviews with the Mothman himself.
Yeah.
Like
Behind Red Eyes.
Mothman, tell us, what drew you to Point Pleasant in the first place? And he's just
right.
It's like, oh, I can't understand you. I don't speak moth.
Yeah, move over Britney Spears. This is the next big thing.
Mothman learns sign language to communicate.
He can communicate through telephones and TVs, apparently. So,
yeah. Yeah, that claim is
ways.
very strange. John Keel saying that. I mean, it clearly extends. That's what's so interesting about it, is he calls it the Mothman prophecies. Yet these voices also warned him apparently about the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., Robert Kennedy, the deaths of Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix. So it's like, did Mothman tell you all this stuff? Or is he just saying he has these weird psychic interactions?
Yeah.
And was also in Point Pleasant at the time and thinks the Mothman predicted it.
And chose not to do anything about these messages that he
That's
received.
The other thing, right? Like if you can tell the future, or these things are telling you, and you, maybe the first one you don't, right? You get a phone call, it's like, oh, look out, Martin Luther King Jr. is gonna, and you don't listen to it because you're like, that was weird, and then it happens. Yeah. Maybe we start taking it a little bit seriously then.
Yeah, but then who's gonna believe you too?
Right.
Yeah. It seems like the start of a movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's when you start investing in like certain stocks.
Right. Oof. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, getting back to Mothman and Point Pleasant. Like I said, it's sort of like Roswell type tourism. Have you ever heard of this term, dark tourism?
No.
There's actually a really great show on Netflix. I believe it only had a season or 2 called Dark Tourist. The idea is that rather than going to regular tourist attractions or like, happy places and taking vacations at like in Rome and going to see the Colosseum, or going to the Louvre in France, or seeing the Leaning Tower of Pisa, or whatever it may be, these very touristy things, you're rather going to the sites of like tragedies, ancient mysteries, paranormal hotbeds. So tourism with like a macabre twist to it. It's very fascinating. That includes stuff like the Guanajuato mummies that are in Mexico.
Oh, sure, yeah.
We have stuff on the site about going there. Mummies. Yeah, because it's morbid and it's creepy, but it's also fascinating and enlightening and historical. And so Point Pleasant has become sort of a hotbed for that kind of thing because of Mothman, but also, like I said, UFOs are a really big thing in West Virginia. Apparently, so are the Men in Black, which I find very fascinating. And
wait, the Men in Black are also in West Virginia?
Like, have been spotted in West Virginia.
Oh.
And Gray Barker, the guy who wrote They Knew Too Much About Flying Saucers, the book on the Men in Black, also wrote about the Mothman in the late 60s.
And just to refresh, the Men in Black are the guys who come after UFO sightings and are like, stay quiet.
Yes. Very different from the movie where they're much more heroic. The purported real life Men in Black are much more intimidating and seek to silence witnesses.
Wow, interesting. I know that they were also in West Virginia.
Yeah, whether that's, legitimate or not, it's very hard to find real evidence of the Men in Black because either it's all fake or they're very good at their jobs. But dark tourists who go to West Virginia do so because there have been a bevy of UFO sightings and incidents and encounters with the Men in Black, in addition to the Mothman, which I guess would explain partly why the Project Blue Book files are at the Mothman Museum.
Wow. Where would you go if you were to go somewhere as a dark tourist?
Ooh, I don't know. I have to see what kind of things people consider. There's the Paris catacombs.
Oh, yeah. I've tried to go there twice, and both times I went, the line was so long that I just gave up.
Makes sense. Did you ever see the movie As Above, So Below?
No.
A found footage horror movie that takes place in the Paris catacombs?
No, I don't like that.
Oh, it's very good. I watched it for the first time a couple weeks ago. What's his name? The main dude from the sitcom Superstore is in it as well.
Was he also in Mad Men, that guy? I think so.
Maybe?
There's catacombs in a cemetery in Brooklyn, and my friend is going maybe it's this weekend. They only do tours in the fall, and it's after hours, starts at 6 p.m. They take you down to the catacombs, and I was like, that sounds so cool.
That's spooky. That's fun.
Yeah, I know. I'm jealous.
Let's see. This blog, Forever Lost in Travel, has recommended 20 unique dark tourism sites from around the world. Alcatraz, Gravenstein Castle in Belgium, the Silver Mines in Bolivia, Chernobyl, the Chernobyl exclusion zone in Ukraine.
It's pretty dark, yeah.
Paris catacombs, Lenin Mausoleum in Russia, Tiananmen Square, Bodie Ghost Town in California, Auschwitz, Guanajuato Mummy Museum, the House of Terror in Budapest.
Wow. I think we should write about some of these things. I haven't heard of them.
Yeah, these are very, very fascinating.
Yeah.
Highly recommend the Dark Tourist show. In one episode, they went to, I believe it was in Japan. It was because they went into a highly radiated area where the fallout of the atomic bombs could still be felt. And they had a device to monitor radiation with them. And at a certain point, it got very scary with how high the radiation levels were.
Oh, wow. Yikes.
It was
dangerous.
It was in Fukushima.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's that kind of stuff that the macabre side of tourism, but I do find it very fascinating.
Yeah, that is cool.
It was Battleship Island, which was once the most densely populated place on Earth and is now just in ruins.
Creepy. Yeah, ruins can be cool to see.
Highly radiated ruins of an old city.
Less cool. I probably wouldn't do that. No.
Yeah. Apparently, nuclear tourism is its own thing as well, which kind of rolling the dice on that one. But
in a past life, I was a travel writer and I interviewed for a job once. I won't name the company, but they do tours and places you're not supposed to go to. And they were like, well, how do you feel about breaking the rules? If Chernobyl, you're not supposed to go in. How would you feel about leading a tour there? And I was like,
yeah.
Don't get in trouble with, people. And I guess Chernobyl's in Ukraine, right? So I wouldn't want to get in trouble with people in Ukraine.
Right.
So not great.
Also,
not
don't
get the job.
Want to go into Chernobyl.
I'd be kind of curious to go in, but I don't know. I wouldn't lead an illegal tour into it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little sketchy.
Yeah, a little bit.
That's that's all I have to say about the Mothman. Like I said, it's a cryptid story, so there's not any definitive proof one way or another. I don't know if you saw just in cryptid news, someone on a train passing through Colorado purportedly got a video of Bigfoot.
Yes, I did see that. Well, and Alec just posted in Slack about the president of Mexico, I think, just posted a picture of a cryptid, an alleged cryptid.
Yeah, what's going on in Mexico this year between this and the alien corpses or whatever?
That's
the alien
right.
mummies.
Oh, yeah. I was trying to remember I knew something else had happened that was like weird in Mexico. Yeah, that's right. Something's going on.
Something's
very
going
strange.
on in Mexico.
Yeah. When it comes to Mothman, I'll reiterate what I said. I feel like this is the kind of thing that could be explained by big old owl. It's going to be my go-to, these cryptid stories. Owls apparently are really weird and creepy, and their eyes can flash red, and they'll attack you, and they look really big sometimes.
I mean, any animal that can turn its head all the way around, you got to keep an eye on. That's pretty paranormal.
That's true. That's true. I told you that my siblings and I were attacked by an owl, right? Or no?
I don't think you did.
We were walking through like a nature preserve. We were home this summer near Seattle, and
this was recent. This was not recent. Like a child. Okay.
Oh yeah, it was kind of funny because we were walking and we heard someone scream, and we kind of looked through the trees, and these three people were kind of like huddled together, and this guy, he said, "Oh, got my face, I'm bleeding," and we were like, "Oh, God. Weird," and we realized it was an owl attack. And then as we were walking kind of at the end of the trail, we were like, "Ha ha ha!" Like, what would we do if an owl attacked? We'd probably all just like drop to the ground. And then my brother was like, "Ah!" We all like dropped to the ground, and this owl had swooped down and like with its talons like scraped his head.
Oh my God.
And then it just sat there and watched us as we were like, how do we get past the owl? And we just kind of ran away.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because these owls will attack during like, I think like breeding season. They can get really aggressive.
Makes sense, but wow.
Yeah. It was during the day, so I could see the owl. I didn't think it was Mothman or anything.
Right. That's still scary regardless. Yeah.
Yeah, it was scary trying to get past it because it was just watching us. You know, it wasn't like we were like throwing like rocks, pine cones, trying to get it to like fly away. And it just sat there. It was like, this is my territory.
Jeez.
Run, humans.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it back when we did the La Lechuza episode forever ago, it feels like. But there's a reason owls were always considered to be a bad omen among indigenous tribes. Mm-hmm. And it's probably because they were very aggressive.
They might attack you. Yeah. Well, then it makes sense with Mothman if like this sighting with the two couples, like it flew after their car. Could be an owl.
The only thing is they did say they saw it in the road before them and it was like 7 feet tall, which is a very big owl.
Right. That would be a pretty big owl. Pretty big.
But also like there's no way to confirm that to be true. So
yeah, no iPhones back then, no dash cams.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I'm a self-professed moth head. I love the story of the Mothman. It's just so interesting. It's so unique compared to a lot of other cryptid stories.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if other ones were, I mean, I'm sure, well, you just said La Lechuza, which I was going to say, which other cryptids are considered like a harbinger of death or destruction?
I can't think of any. A lot of the other cryptids are just weird creatures.
Yeah.
There's Bigfoot, who we really should do an episode on Bigfoot because there are some really interesting theories about him, them.
Right. Well, and it's been spotted like around the world. Like there's the Yeti and the abominable snowman.
Well, and some people say Bigfoot is an interdimensional traveler who can travel through camera lenses, and that's why it's impossible to get a photo of him.
Oh, I love that. That's really creative.
I mean, that's what I mean. Bigfoot theories get weird.
Wow.
And I would really love to talk about it.
Yeah, that sounds, I'm down. Let's do it.
But we should. I mean, there's like you said, the Yeti, there's the Loch Ness Monster, there's the Florida skunk ape, which is very similar to Bigfoot. There's the Loveland frogs. There's the chupacabra, skinwalkers, which we do have an episode on. Do we have one on the Wendigo? We definitely have an article about the Wendigo.
We have a couple of articles that have covered it, I believe. I think we have an article that is either on Bigfoot or it's like all the different Bigfoots of the world.
All the big feet.
All the big feet, yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What is plural of Bigfoot? Is it Bigfoots or is it big feet?
Big feet.
I'm looking at the cryptid wiki right now. There's also the one called the Bat Squatch.
Oh. Is that like Sasquatch, but different?
With bat wings.
Oh, wow. Terrifying.
Yeah, half bat, half Sasquatch. There's the Thunderbird. There is the Yowie.
Oh, yeah. Yowie sounds familiar.
The Dover Demon, werewolves, Rougarou, Ogopogo, the Snallygaster. There's the Pukwudgie.
Oh, I love all the names.
Yeah. Cryptid names get weird.
Yeah.
Atlas Obscura 4 hours ago posted something about the Snallygaster.
Oh.
But yeah, I just Googled cryptids 4 hours ago. Atlas Obscura says the unsettling legend of Maryland's native cryptid, the Snallygaster.
Wow. They're on top of it.
Way to go. Give credit where credit's due.
Well, the truth is out there, as they say.
Yeah. The Flatwoods Monster. That's another one. The Sheep Squatch.
Oh, wow.
Holy moly.
They're everywhere.
Yeah. I think there's at least one cryptid per U.S. state.
Oh, that'd be an interesting article. What cryptid goes to which state? Because I think Sasquatch was in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, there's my Q4 pitch for next year.
There you go. Start thinking of them now.
Yeah. I know the Squonk is one, I believe, in PA. The Squonk is my favorite. It's so pathetic.
Squonk sounds like skunk.
Purported to live in the hemlock forest of northern PA. It's basically just this really sad, pathetic thing that smells really bad and cries to itself all the time.
Oh.
It's like not scary.
What? I mean, is it crying to like learn victims or just like it's just sad?
Legend says that its skin is ill-fitting, being covered with warts, and that because it is ashamed of its appearance, it hides from plain sight and spends most of its time weeping. Today I learned I am the Squonk.
Where did this legend even come from?
I don't know. Late 19th century, at the height of PA's importance in the timber and hunting industry. The earliest written account of squonks comes from a book by William T. Cox called Fearsome Creatures of the Lumberwoods.
Fearsome.
Yeah, I don't know if I would describe the squonk as fearsome, but fearful.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there you have it. Hey, listeners, let us know if you want us to talk about any of these other cryptids, which ones appeal to you most, because I love talking about cryptids, and I will talk about them endlessly.
There's so many to choose from. It's amazing.
Let me know which cryptid you identify with the most. For me, it is the squonk. For you, it might be Bigfoot. That can be our next Spotify poll. Yeah, or like we could put up an article on the site, copy BuzzFeed. It'd be like,
which cryptid are you?
Yeah, which cryptid are you? Answer these 50 questions and find out. Yeah, like I said, write in at podcast@allthat'sinteresting.com. Let us know which cryptid you identify with, or just what you thought on this episode, or any questions or concerns you have.
Or Mothman sightings. People in Point Pleasant, please pen us a note.
Send in your Mothman photos.
Yeah,
if you live in the Point Pleasant region, or possibly near Chicago.
Or maybe somewhere brand new.
Yeah, Russia maybe.
Maybe Russia. Yeah, you can definitely do that. You can email us, podcast@allthat'sinteresting. Or if you feel more comfortable just describing it and leaving no paper trail, you can call us at 929-526-3029.
Yeah, calls from the nearest toll booth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we won't judge. Yeah.
Or star 69 it, or whatever. Is it star 69 or star 67 to hide your number?
I think it's star 69, but I'm not sure does that even work anymore?
No idea.
Okay, I would imagine probably not, but I don't know.
Yeah, feel free to hide all identifying information if you decide to write in. And if you don't want to write in, but you're interested in more of this stuff, check out allthat'sinteresting.com. We have articles ranging from Wendigo to Bigfoot to the Mothman to stuff on serial killers like Ted Bundy and
so much
the other
stuff.
one. What's it? Jeffrey Dahmer.
The other one. So many to choose
Evan
from.
Peters.
Yeah. And history stuff too. Lots of history stuff.
Lots of history stuff. Yeah, it's some science. Got some happy news on there as well. Today, I wrote about a tortoise who found its way home after 3 years.
That is
so
happy.
nice and uplifting stories there. Become a member at allthat'sinteresting.com/membership and join the newsletter at allthat'sinteresting.com/sign up.
We also now have an exciting Instagram page for this podcast.
Yeah, if you don't want to join TikTok for any of the various reasons that someone might not want to join TikTok, but you're interested in the kind of content we produce, which is really just sharing clips from the podcast, but often with a visual accompaniment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're fun. I make them.
They are
and
fun.
I put a lot of work into it, and yeah, it's really cool. So you can check us out on Instagram at History Uncovered Podcast. If you are on TikTok, we are at Real History Uncovered over on TikTok as well. And give us the old 5-star rating, or whatever star rating you think we deserve.
5 stars, of course. And
I would prefer 5.
Leave a nice review if you like the podcast.
And if you don't, shut up.
Should we plug what's next? I'm not really sure what it is.
Yeah, we have upcoming Roland Doe, the true story behind The Exorcist. You had something about people falling out of planes?
Yes, and that's next week, is people falling out of planes and surviving, most of them.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And then, I believe after that is Roland Doe, the true story behind The Exorcist.
After that's Roland Doe, and then it's the JFK assassination.
Ooh.
What I'm so excited about. I think Kara's going to be back for that one.
Sweet. I'll get my tinfoil hat ready.
Me too, honestly, for that one.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
All right. Well, then, until next time.
Until next time.